They don't fall in love. They fall back. Gen X watched their parents' marriages collapse. They watched romance get sold as a lie. And they decided quietly, stubbornly, that love wasn't something they'd trust. This isn't bitterness. It's not trauma in the way you'd expect. It's a psychology, a rewiring, built over decades. And if you've ever met a Gen X person who keeps everyone at arm's length, or maybe you are that person, this video is going to explain everything. Stay with me. This goes deep. Born between 1965 and 1980, Gen X grew up in the middle of America's divorce boom. The US divorce rate doubled between 1960 and 1980. These kids had front row seats. Mom crying, dad gone, weekends split, no explanation, and then, left alone. The Latchkey Generation. Come home to an empty house. Figure it out yourself. No helicopter parents. No structured play dates. No emotional check-ins. Just independence. Whether they wanted it or not. Here's what that does to a developing brain. It teaches self-reliance as a survival skill. Needing people becomes a liability. Connection becomes a risk. Why lean in when the people you love are most likely to leave? That question doesn't go away. It gets louder. Psychologists call it avoidant attachment. And Gen X is basically the blueprint. John Bowlby's attachment theory is simple. How your caregivers respond to you as a child, that becomes your template for every relationship after. Consistent, warm caregivers, secure attachment. You trust. You connect. You lean in. Absent, unreliable caregivers, avoidant attachment. You build walls. You perform independence. You convince yourself you don't need anyone. Gen X didn't just have absent parents. They had an absent culture. No one was modeling healthy intimacy. TV gave them Dallas and Dynasty, power, affairs, manipulation dressed up as love. Pop music said love would tear you apart. Literally. So they learned. Love is unstable. Love is drama. Love is something that ends badly. What do you do with that belief at 35? At 45? At 55? You keep your distance. You call it preference. You call it freedom. You don't call it fear. But that's what it is. Now add cynicism on top of all that. Gen X came of age during the AIDS crisis. Reaganomics. Corporate downsizing. The fall of trust in institutions. Governments lied. Companies lied. The church lied. Why would love be any different? This generation developed a cultural reflex, skepticism as armor. Don't buy in. Don't get swept up. Stay cool. The ironic detachment Gen X is famous for? That's not a personality quirk. That's a defense mechanism. Caring too much meant getting hurt. Being enthusiastic made you a target. So they mastered the art of not quite caring. Here's the cruel twist. The same coolness that protected them makes intimacy almost impossible. Because real love requires vulnerability. Real love requires, God forbid, sincerity. And sincerity is the one thing Gen X was never taught was safe. So they stay interesting, they stay independent, and they stay alone. What does this look like in real life? Gen X are the most likely generation to live alone by choice. Not because they can't find someone, because alone feels safer than exposed. They fall into situationships. Long-term, almost relationships. Deep connections with built-in escape hatches. Close enough to feel something. Far enough to survive losing it. They say they want love. And they mean it in the abstract. But the moment someone gets too close, something shifts. They get busy. They get vague. They remember all the reasons it won't work. This isn't cruelty. This is the nervous system doing what it was trained to do. Protect. Withdraw. Repeat. And here's what makes it worse. Gen X are self-aware. They know exactly what they're doing. They can explain their attachment style. They've read the books. They've done the therapy. Understanding the pattern and breaking the pattern. Completely different things. Insight without action is just a more sophisticated wall. But here's what I want to leave you with. Gen X didn't choose this. It was installed in them. By circumstance. By culture. By a world that left them alone too early and asked too little of them emotionally. The psychology isn't a flaw. It's a solution built by kids who had no other tools. The problem is, those kids are adults now. And the solution has become the prison. And some of them, not all, but some, are starting to notice that. The Gen X individuals who do fall in love, deeply, openly, they didn't overcome their past by ignoring it. They leaned into it. They chose to be embarrassingly sincere in a world that mocked sincerity. They let people see them, fully, badly, without the armor. That's not a generational trait. That's a decision. And you can make it at any age. If this hits something real for you, subscribe. I go this deep every single week. Drop your generation in the comments. Tell me if this tracks. And watch this next. You won't regret it.